All right, we're going to take a little bit of a activity here, and we're going to go put all these concepts together, and we're going to go build our KV store. And that will involve, I've gone into Apps Lookup Editor. I'm going to create me a new lookup. And that KV store, I'm going to call it SourcetypeInfo. We're going to use this to document our source types. And I'm going to go put it in L.A.M.E edu. And we need a source type field. It'll be a string. We need a field name. It'll be a string. We'll put a value here. Field value. And that will be a we could do it as a number or we could do it as a string. Let's do it as a number. And then field name, we're going to put rationale. Cool, and so the principle is we'll identify a source type, we'll pick a field, we'll talk about its value, and we'll give a rationale for its value. And yeah, let's just leave it at those 4 fields. And so we do that. We go ahead and hit create lookup. And we've got a source type info. Let's go ahead and open this in search. It's going to ask us to make the transform name. We're just going to use the exact same name as I find usually works best for me. I'm going to create the transform. And so if I open and search, should be good to go. So let's just go ahead and do this. I'm going to put a source type L.A.M.E con, and I'm going to put the field source. Field name, source IP. We're going to give this a 1. Actually, we'll give it a 10. And rationale, absolutely essential, defines the source IP address for the log. And I can then just go ahead and put it in search. There, it's written in. And so we have our source type. I'm going to remove this because I don't want these fields, but I just want to show that it was filling out. Anyway, now we'll move on to the next segment. We've developed a source type info lookup. So we've got this little KV store. And now I'm going to show you what we're kind of shooting for. We have ourselves the ability to document a source type field. So we want to be able to write what we're doing, show people, hey, you know what, we basically want to have a data dictionary for our different source types. So the principle would be you could come in here, you select your different indexes, and when you pick your index, you choose the index you want, it'll pre-populate a list. So if I, for example, L.A.M.E training, it would populate the source type. I'd pick L.A.M.E con, and it would then give me back the fields that I have available in that source type. And so in this case, I might pick, say, bytes in. How useful is this field? I'm going to say that I could use useful, rarely useful, useless. I'm going to say it's useful. I'm going to get justification. State gives a number of bytes that the source IP received during the network connection. And if I hit submit, we're just going to skip through this. We'll have another video on how to turn this off. In 9.0, you cannot run output lookup without specifically saying it. So I'm going to say run query anyway. That's all good. And you get back your information here. And so if I go look at my lookup editor, I hit refresh. I have my bytes in. It's got a filled value, gives a number of bytes at the source that the source IP received, and it belongs to the L.A.M.E. So that the principle there is we want to build a little documentation, and that's what we're going to walk through in this tutorial. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. This is our end product, and let's get there. So the first thing we need to do is let's go build ourselves a new dashboard. So I'm going to duplicate this tab. I'm going to come in here to L.A.M.E edu, and we're going to go build a dashboard, Splunk dashboards, and we're going to go create a new dashboard. And I'm going to call it YouTube document source type data library input. And I'm going to just give it a description, help document the data types for Splunk source types. We're going to make this a shared an app. I'm going to make it in the classic. And the first thing we need is the ability to choose a index. So we're going to do a drop down, and I'm going to put here in the label, choose index. I'm going to make the token field IDX. I'm going to leave all this stuff alone. I'm going to come make a query. Well, what should my query be? And I'll show you the query you want. It's this little event count. You need this summarize equals false. This basically says, am I going to summarize the data across all my indexes? If you're in a standalone instance, you might change this from true to false, but the concept, you must have at least summarize equals false. If I take this piece out, it's not an optional field, the thing will crash. But anyway, so I do event count, summarize equals false, and then I say index equals star. If I wanted to search my underscores, I want to search the internal indexes, I put an underscore there. I don't want my internal indexes. I'm going to just do all my indexes that are available to everyone else. I'm going to do a stats count by index. Basically what happens is if I do this, I'm going to get back a whole bunch of duplicative indexes, especially as they cross different, if you have multiple indexers. And so this stats count by index, when I'm done with it, I'm left with just one instance of each index. And then I don't need this count, so I'm just going to do a fields index. This means, hey, just include the index field, and voila, we have a list of all of our indexes. It's a very nice, quick, fast query. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to drop this in my query. I like to write my queries in a search bar and then test them here. You can write them and then test them with a run search, or just say, I never make mistakes in my query, and just put it in there and expect that it's going to work. Whatever suits your fancy. Me personally, I like to try to eliminate as many places as I can screw up on, because I have a tendency to screw up. So I want the field for label to be index, which is that. I go to the fields, here's my index. So I'm going to use the index field here. I also want the value. I could say, we could put a different field here and have it display, say you could use a different field and provide a different value. In this case, we want to display the index and we want to give the value of the index. So I hit that, and now I have my list of indexes. Sweet. Next thing I want to do is I want to get my source types. So I've shown this in video before, but if I do metadata, I can do index equals, we're going to do L.A.M.E training type equals source types. It's a very quick way, metadata. It's a very quick way of getting back all your source types. And we can see very quickly that here are my source types. So, and I want the fields, source type. So I want this field right here. So if I click that, there are the list of my source types. I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to come in here, add an input,
Do another drop down. We'll call it source type. Choose source type, and I'm going to make its token source type, and we'll come put that in there. And what will be my fields? Source type and source type. So I'll put the source type in the field and the label. And now the difference is, I don't want it to be L.A.M.E training. I want it to use the token here, which I had IDX. And if you've forgotten how I know that, I'm going to come over here, and this says, here's my token. We just need to remember that we put tokens in. When we call them out in the query, we put a $sign on each side. So if I come here and I go, I now know IDX with a $sign on each side. It does not hurt to put them in double quotes if you want, but for this situation, we'll just leave them out. It's no big deal. So if I click that, I'm going to click L.A.M.E training, and there are my 4 source types. Sweet. Next thing I need is the list of all the fields that are available to me in a source type. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a new query, and that query is um, we're going to go index equals L.A.M.E training, source type equals L.A.M.E con, and then what I want to do is I'm going to grab the first 100 fields. You want to grab enough of them to get a good idea that you're getting, because not all source types return the same fields. So you want to grab a big enough selection that you feel that you've pretty much grabbed all the variety of logs that are there. 100's usually a pretty good one. And then I'm going to use this field summary command. And the field summary will come back and give me all the fields and give me some information about them. And so for right now, just so you get a demo of what that is, I can see field, how many times it has showed. So I got a field called app. It showed up 100 times. I had 5 distinct apps show up. So it does a whole bunch of different little values on here. I can see the different values, etc. So this gives me a nice little breakdown. But really, the only thing I care about for this is the field. So I'm going to do fields field. That way when I run this, here is a list of all of my fields from that data. So I'm going to copy that, choose field, and I'm going to call this FLD. I can call it whatever I want. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put this query in, and we're going to run field. And if I hit apply, so now I choose my source type, L.A.M.E con, and I need to fix that. My bad. I don't want to use L.A.M.E con here. We want to use First, we want to use the index is $IDX, and the source type is $source type. If I do that, there's all my fields. And how do I know it's source type? Once again, it's that token field right there. All right, so now I've got my source type. Next thing I want to do is I want to put maybe want to put a field usefulness in there. And I'm going to use, we chose in our lookup to make the field value a number. I'm going to put it, but in this case, just to give some capabilities here, I'm going to I'm going to use a string here. And then we'll convert it in our query. And so I'm going to call this FLD useful. And so I'm going to come down here. This time I don't have any queries to fill this, so I'm going to put useful. The value will be 10. I'm going to say not very useful. Value is 5. And I'm going to say useless. Value of 1. So I'm given some sort of hierarchical number. The user is going to see these values, but its actually value is going to be these over here. So if I come down here, hit apply, We've now got field usefulness, and let's add a text box. We're going to call this the description of field, and we're going to call it description of field. And I'm going to make sure that to start out with, I'm going to put change me. I'm going to put the initial value of change me. This is even more important when you see how we're going to keep this thing from running just all the time. I want a value that I know is, one, it tells the user they need to change it, and two, if change me is in here, we're going to basically not have it write to our KV store. So I'm going to do hit apply. And the last little piece I want to do is I want to have a submit button. I definitely do not want my query to run each time one of these things changes. Otherwise, you'll be making a lot of writes to your KV store. No, I want to write it once when all the fields are set up. All right, so I've got an index, a source type, a field, a usefulness, and a description of the field. Now, here's where the magic comes. I'm going to make a statistics table, and I'm going to add it to the dashboard, and we're going to do make results. Make results allows me to do exactly that, create my own results. And the first thing we're going to do is we need to go through each field in this lookup editor and assign the appropriate token to it. So for example, we have the lookup editor, we have field name. Cool, so let's go make eval field name equals, and that was my FLD. Next value, we have a field value, and that was eval field value equals FLD useful. And so just for now, let's just put this down so we can see the stuff as we execute it. Table, field name, field value. I'm going to add to the dashboard. And how do I just make sure I wrote that right? FLD useful. FLD useful. Cool, got it right. So if I'm going to choose a field. I'm going to say app, and I'm going to go not very useful. I'm going to hit submit, and it's going to come back with, did I miss this? Okay, so it says field name. Field name is FLD. Here, FLD. All right. Oh, yes. One of the things to remember when you're doing this, always put them in double quotes. Always put these in double quotes when you're going to use a make results field. Make result eval needs fields to be in quotes. So if I hit apply, all strings have to be applied with that. So there's my field name that was chosen. There's my field value. I picked not very useful, which was, this was 10, this was 5, this is 1. Did exactly what I wanted to. So I'm going to flip this to useless. Okay, gotta love that. So we'll just refresh the page. That'll make that JavaScript go away, Java little error go away. I'm going to choose bytes in, useless. I hit submit. Now it says bytes in, and it went to a 1. Exactly how I expected. So let's go add the rest of these fields in. So we have field name and field value. We're going to need a rationale and a source type. So let's do those. Eval rationale equals, did I call it rationale? Let's find out. I don't think I did. I think I put it as description. Description of field. So I'll just copy that and we'll put that in the quotes with quotes on the side, quotes in the front and the back. And now we can put a rationale here. And the last one we need is source type. Source type, and I'm going to go do an eval source type equals source type. That was that field, and if we have that running right, Okay, let's hit submit, make sure that, again, double quotes, hit apply. Now I have my source type, my rationale, my field value, my bytes in. 4 values for the lookup. We're good to go. So what we've got is we could simply put output lookup to, what's the name of my lookup? SourcetypeInfo. Something like that, and append equals true. If I don't put the append equals true, it's going to blow away. Every time I hit this, it's going to blow away what's in the KB store. Don't want that. So definitely want to put append equals true. I could do this, but this would allow people to accidentally put values in when they don't fill everything out. And I don't want that. I want to make sure all my fields are filled out before we do that. So I'm going to cut that out for the moment. And we're going to use this change me description of field. And right now I put the default value as change me. So if somebody hasn't, I want them to change this or I don't want it to run. And so what we can do is a simple where, what's this here, description of field, which is rationale, does not equal change me. So what we've got is we're not going to go any further down this line if rationale does not, where rationale, if rationale equals change me, it's not going to go any further. So let's show that in practice. Before we had something, now we don't. I erase this and put some value. I hit submit. It now works. I remove everything from here. It immediately flips back to change me. I hit submit. It doesn't work. So now we're good to go. If I now put my little output lookup, so what we're going to do, I'm going to do bytes out. I'm going to call it useful. We already did the bytes in, so let's do the bytes out. I pretty much already have the syntax for it, so let's just go grab this. Come on. Control C, move this over, hit bookmarks, Control V, and instead of being the source IP, that the destination IP received. If I hit submit, so we'll go ahead and hit the submit button. It's going to tell me I need to approve it. Sure, run the query. And we see that we've got a bytes out, a field value of 10, a rationale, and a source type. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So this is permanent. And if I come to my lookup editor and I refresh the page, there's my bytes out. And so I'm good to go. Now the last piece we want to do is we want to show this information. We want to make a documentation page, and I've pretty much already done it, so I'm going to save the time. Maybe I'll do a video if anybody wants to see this. But the concept is I have let me go to my dashboards, and I have a source type documentation. And it's going to do the exact same thing I already did here at the index. It's the same query. We've done this query before. Event count, summarize. This time I used a dedupe. So let's take it stats, count by index. Get rid of that dedupe command. Apply. Source type, same principle, metadata. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go grab L.A.M.E training. And I'm going to go grab L.A.M.E con. And now I have a data dictionary that L.A.M.E con, the bytes in, it's useful. The L.A.M.E con, the bytes out, it's useful, it gives the number of bytes, etc., etc. This was a demo that I need to remove, so if I go in here, lookup editor, this is my very first one. Let's go ahead and delete it, delete selected row, and now I hit submit there. Just going to refresh this page. Should have my bytes in and my bytes out. You could do another thing. You could do another KV store where you listed all of the analytics that you might use for this source type. And so down below, you could say, hey, this L.A.M.E, it's really good at looking for large large amount of data transfer, maybe data exfiltration, and then show like a query that would pull back data exfiltration. You could say it's really good for checking intel that you went to an IP address that was in a list from a CSV, and then you could have your query here. So you could build a whole bunch of tables that will basically become a data dictionary for this source type so that someone can come along, they can come in and see, oh, this L.A.M.E, all right, these are some useful fields. Yep. Oh, that field isn't so useful. Oh, okay, so these are some of the analytics I could do with this. And so that's the principle that you can use. You can build your own dashboards, populate KV stores, and then create your own documentation. You could also write this as a Word document and store it, but I kind of like Splunk to do it for me. So anyway, and the beauty is, if you do this, you could come and say, hey, for example, L.A.M.E DNS, this immediately tells me, oh, you don't have any of these fields. You could also do a lookup table where you build the base of the lookup here is all of the source types, and you do a lookup to your KV store and tell it what fields you have, so thereby you would see which fields you're still lacking to document. There's just so many different options you can do for documentation that gives you a little more than just working with a normal Word doc or something like that. So anyway, I hope you found this useful. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. It helps support the effort we're doing here. I hope this helps you move from being a L.A.M.E analyst to a Splunk ninja.